I said, here's this part of the talk tonight that gets real technical, but we'll get through it. So we start off with these monocytes. What I'm going to discuss now is a viral process, specifically talking about a virus. So if a virus gets in you, it's going to start off with a monocyte. A monocyte is the largest type of white blood cell we have. It is the largest white blood cell that we have. And what it does is it carries out surveillance. So specifically, like a cop on patrol, literally like that. If you have a police officer that is driving down the street, and he sees something that doesn't quite look right, just not sure, he's going to think of one of two ways in which to deal with that. He's going to think about, let's see, can I take care of this on my own, or do I need to call in for backup? And that is literally what happens with these monocytes. Literally what they do. They carry out surveillance, so they go around the whole body, just looking for stuff that ain't right. Something that's not you, something that's not part of you, in order to go through the process of taking it out. And it will look at it and they'll say, okay, I see a bunch of bacteria, a bunch of viruses, a bunch of something, and it'll decide, can I take care of this myself, or do I need to call for backup? If there's too many viruses for it to handle on its own, then what it'll do, it'll call in for these things that are called T helper cells. T helper cells. And actually what it does is these monocytes will send a chemical message that calls these T helper cells in. And what the T helper cells do is they basically just continue to assess the situation and see, what do we need to do from here? How do we need to attack from this point? And what they'll do is send another chemical message that calls in T killer cells. T killer cells. T killer cells are great, I think, because they have one thing in mind. They kill. They kill, they destroy. That's all they do. That's it. Once we get to this point in the immune response, there's killing happening, because that's all they do. They come in guns blazing, right? We talked about monocytes coming in and assessing, T helper cells coming in and assessing and looking. T killer cells come in and they're shooting. That's what they do. If they've been called, that means something needs to die. So that's why they're coming in, so that's what they're going to do. They just kill. T killer cells. Well, once we get to the point to where these things are starting to get under control a little bit, then the next thing that happens is T suppressor cells come in to play. And the T suppressor cells basically begin to shut things down, slow things down. Let me say it this way. This is the way I always think about it. If you've been in a fight, and maybe it's just me, because no one in here has ever been in a fight, I'm sure. But if you've been in a fight and you've gotten to the point to where you've lost your mind, right? You know what I'm talking about? Where you just swinging, and nobody can tell you any different, right? Somebody's got to pull you off, that kind of thing. You just, and it might take somebody to get into your face and just say, okay, it's over, stop. That's the kind of image I get in my head when I think about these, because these T killer cells are just killing, and they don't stop until they're told to stop. But the thing that stops them are these, the suppressor cells. They get there, they say, okay, the battle's over. You can stop now. Please stop. That's what they do. After that, the last step, and once again, this is a viral process. If you have a virus, this is what happens. The last step is we have these T memory cells that come in. And they remember. I'll give you an example of a viral process to help you understand a little bit more about what these memory cells do. Chickenpox. Chickenpox is a virus. And everybody in here has probably either had chickenpox or you've had the vaccination against it. If you're pretty young, you probably have just had the vaccine, but most of us have actually had chickenpox. So chickenpox comes in, the body doesn't recognize it. It's an intruder. It's something that's not supposed to be there. So the monocytes go through this process. It brings them the helper cells. The helper cells call them the killer cells. And the killer cells start to take care of it. Eventually we get things under control. Suppressor cells do their thing. And then the memory cells come in and they see these cells that are called chickenpox, we commonly call chickenpox, and they remember what they look like. And not only do they remember what they look like, but they make a specific type of antibody designed specifically, solely, and only to kill chickenpox. Specifically. Not anything else. Chickenpox. They remember. So I think about that. It's like, I think about CSI, right? Coming in after everything there's all the carnage. And CSI they're taking pictures. They're putting stuff on the wall. Next time we see chicken, this is what chickenpox is like, y'all. Next time we see it, take them out. So if chickenpox comes in again, which we get exposed to chickenpox all the time. We do it all the time. So if chickenpox comes in again, your body recognizes it immediately and takes it out immediately. Before you show any symptoms, before you even know that it was in and was out, your body just knows because it remembers. And we don't see it again. Now, technically speaking, if you get a slight case of it, you might see it again. But for the most part, that's how that's supposed to work, and that's how it does work. That's specifically a viral process of how this works. One of the things we know, specifically number 3 here, once again, where it says monocytes and surveillance, underneath that I have macrophages. So let me break that word down for you as well. Macro means big. That's it. It just means big. Phage means to eat. It means to eat. That's a weird sounding word, macrophage. It means literally a big eater. Monocytes have the ability to grow so large that they're able to be seen by the naked eye. One of 2 cells in the body that we can see without a microscope. The other one are egg cells. But monocytes will grow to become big eaters, macrophages, and they have the ability to engulf or eat up to 100 bacteria at once. So they can do the job all by themselves a lot of the time. So if they look at something and assess it and think, I've got to call in for backup, then that means this infection is already a decent size within your body. But this happens all the time. But our bodies, if they're working the way they're supposed to, are very adept at handling it. So one of the things that we know, because of psychoneuroimmunology, is that these macrophages are more sluggish when we're sad, when we're unforgiving. If I add that in, and I know I can. When we're bitter, when we're upset, when we see the world as glass half empty, God, you can't help me. You don't know what I've done. Or trying to forgive yourself, right? Like Janet talked about last night. Or God, you don't know what they did to me. And so now I'm down because of what they did to me. Then you are crippling your immune system and its ability to do its job. The macrophages get sluggish. This is the beginning of the process. Understand that the killer cells don't come in to kill if they're not called. They don't come in if they're not called. So if we cripple it here in the beginning, then it's going to be a while before they're called. It's going to be a while. So they're sluggish when we're sad, but something we know. Now, once again, Proverbs 3:7, be not wise in thine own eyes. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Stop looking at what they did to you and keeping you bitter, and keeping you down, and keeping you sad, because that's what you think we ought to do. Using your own wisdom. Fear the Lord, depart from evil. It shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones. Right? This is where all this stuff is coming from. The bone marrow. The next thing I have here, letter C, are natural killer cells. Natural killer cells. I love natural killer cells because unlike this process that we've seen here, natural killer cells don't need anybody to call them. If I was to give you an example of what